Hey everyone, welcome to CRE Power Hour, hosted by the dynamic duo of commercial real estate. We have Stephanie Gillison and myself, Lisa Marie Wand, and we have over 4 decades of combined experience and expertise, and we've built and we've scaled and we've conquered the real estate world. And we're here, get ready to uncover trends, proven strategies, and meet the movers and shakers of the business at CRE Power Hour. Tune in for the insights, stay for the success stories. And today we have Melissa Cantrell, hailing from Atlanta, Georgia. She's an amazing architect here to talk to us today. So welcome, Melissa. Nice to see you, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
So tell us about what you're passionate about as far as commercial architecture. You've got some great experience. You've won some awards. So introduce yourself to our audience.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you for having me here. I have been at CVH since 1999. I started as an intern and worked my way up to being president and CEO of the company, and have along the way brought a lot of experience and lessons learned to the table. Seen a lot of things change in our market sectors, specifically in our home here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I have been given opportunities to get engaged both within the CRE economy here in Georgia, from the corporate world through our predominant market in healthcare, as well as in other avenues within our community, including our CIDs and other community and business environments. I have won some awards. I'm, a little humble, so I don't like to talk about them too much. But I was named a Woman of Influence for Architecture and Design last year in 2022 by Globe Street, and I've also been afforded other awards across the region. And most recently, we were named the 2023 Small Business of the Year for Cobb County Chamber of Commerce in Georgia. So I'm very excited about that. I know, yes.
Awesome. I didn't even think about that, but now it hit me because I was 2022 Woman of Influence for Globe Street.
Oh, that's why I know your name so well.
Yes. So we were in that same class.
That's right. That's right.
We're the cool chicks, right?
Yes, we are the cool chicks.
That's awesome. And, we were talking a little bit before the show, but, there's just a lot of people in the CRE space. They don't even, sometimes they don't think outside the box. But, right now, like you said, we're going through a whole lot of changes in this market. And, the big one is repurposing. There's so many things that, we're going to have to figure out what buildings can and cannot be. And I've been proactive in making sure to call in that architect ahead of time, before I take a property to market, before I know how to represent that property. I want that opinion. And so you all are probably doing quite a bit of that.
We're doing quite a bit of that. Exactly. And really, to your point, Stephanie, it's so important to bring the architect in on the front end. We are looking at different types of properties in existing facilities that may have been anything from garages where cars were getting repurposed all the way up to corporate office buildings. And when we begin to look at how those facilities can be used based on the owner's programmatic requirements, what we're finding a lot of times is the building was never intended to be that. So how do we get creative, or what hindrances or opportunities, as we like to call them in the architectural industry, are there within the facility? But doing the due diligence on the front end can save clients so much money in either identifying the property as not the right fit, or identifying creative ways to work around some of the challenges that we might have within the infrastructure that's presented.
Well, and it holds a whole lot more oomph, so to speak, to those prospective buyers when you say, we've already had an architect take a look at this. This
Yes.
absolutely can be done, and here's how to do it. It only
Yes.
helps us be better brokers and get our sellers as much as we possibly can, which is the ultimate goal, is to get the thing sold and so forth. So that's awesome. And I'm
Absolutely.
glad you're involved in that space for sure.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it's been great for us. And I know for a fact that we've helped our clients avoid some costly issues that could have been presented, and also looked at opportunities for them to use the spaces differently than they might have already intended to do.
That's great.
So I can see how, as an architect, you can have an impact on economic development in an area, not just with repurposing, but with helping a community grow. Can you speak to that?
So absolutely. I mentioned my involvement outside of the corporate walls of our firm, and as architects, as an architect myself, it's my purpose in life to really define what communities can be and look for opportunities to grow those communities, to support them and make them more successful. So we work with developers, we work with our chambers of commerce, and some of their connections to really look deeper at opportunities within the area, whether that's a blank slate of property, what could be in that area, looking at site test fits and due diligence reports that identify creative zones where we might, again, look at a strategic placement of a particular building, or look at, as we did recently with a private developer in one of our local communities, a specific client base, even naming them, and then going to that client and saying, what do you think? Do you also envision yourself there, in an attempt to help the developers really define the opportunities and to cast that vision for the developer or for that particular tenant or client, so that they can then take that to their funders.
I love that, Melissa. You know, I recently had a property listing, a vacant piece of property, and that's exactly what we wanted to do. We saw what type of C-store needed to go there. I knew what brand I wanted to see there because I'd been visiting them in other states. They had no plans on coming to the Kentucky market, but here we get an architect, we draw it all out, we send it to them, and guess who has the property under contract? They do. That helped me so, I mean, it was just the best thing I could have done to get that property sold. And actually, it was, you know, early on in the stages of it, we knew what their budget would be for that land purchase. So we set the price based on that budget, which
Absolutely
technically was a little bit more than what my seller thought it was worth, but it worked out. And that we did that because of working with an architect like yourself to create that vision.
Yeah, it's one of the best investments that I could say a developer who's looking at a speculative type arrangement perhaps can do to reinforce the success of that sale or that purchase.
Yeah. So as agents and brokers, that's one of the things we need to be recommending during, you know, the whole entire listing process. As seller, I want you to spend X amount of dollars, and this is what I want to do because this is the best way. You know, it's so much better than showing somebody an aerial map of a vacant piece of land. People don't have visual, right? And so let's create that vision for them. You may not have to put the brand on it, but you can subconsciously draw it out to make it look exactly what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we did that successfully with a client recently. And they partnered with one of the local agencies where another residential development was going in to really sell to that client the prospect of it. And for a relatively low cost point, you can get an architect on board to help you with that vision casting.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so true, because you see vacant development land that just sits because you go online, you go on CoStar, Crexy, and you see just these pictures of a field. And when you can help potential clients see the vision of what this particularly could be, and getting involved with the city and county early on to get some initial pre-approvals on potential uses or site plans, I think it's a great idea. It's the difference between a proactive kick-ass broker and someone who's just throwing listings up there and seeing what'll stick, because that kind of stuff will sit. And I love the story that you told, Stephanie, about being proactive. You had a vision of someone that you saw, a certain client, to be in a specific property, and you focused and targeted your marketing specifically and using an architect to make that happen. That's
it was great. And I love that Melissa shared that shares that understanding, because the architect I ended up using in my market was like, why are you going to waste your money doing this? I said, you'll see. And no sooner did I do it and we got it under contract, do I go back to him and say, hey, we need to move forward with this now, because, and he goes, he couldn't even believe me. Right. But that's the people that think outside the box, right? That's what makes us great at what we do. So don't just sit there with your hands under your ass. Do a little bit of the work.
Do some work.
I love it. Yeah. And for my architect friends out there, it's paid marketing.
It is.
It's getting your foot in the door with this broker and that prospective tenant.
Exactly.
To drive that and get you that much closer to having the final deal.
So true. Your name's on every plan that gets submitted to planning and zoning. It's on every permitting process. It's out there to everyone. I mean, and again, not only did I land a sale, he landed a client.
There you go.
And didn't even trust me.
He should have known better. He will not question you again, Stephanie.
That's right.
Let's talk about your LEED accredited. And for our live audience and people watching later, talk about that LEED accreditation and what that means and how that can be utilized in commercial real estate.
Absolutely. So for those of you who aren't familiar with LEED accreditation, it is looking at the building design from conception to completion as to how we can build in environmental sustainability into the systems, the structure, into some of the support amenities within the space. I would also throw in that well is a huge aspect of that today, because it takes the building beyond the immediate impact. And there is typically what we're seeing is that previously there was a significant cost with going with a LEED, not just from a LEED accredited building, not just from the perspective of the administration, from the architect's perspective, but from the building construction. And as our systems and building ecology is evolving, that is stabilizing. There's still a slight premium, I would say, for some of the efficiencies that are built into it, but it's a huge selling point. In fact, we chose the building that we are in today because it was, and I do say was, a LEED accredited building. The particular building owner, this is a 20-year-old building, and they've decided not to sustain that, but they implemented a well program. And if you're not familiar with well, again, it's looking at how the inhabitants, the occupants of the building are sustained, integrating other aspects of sustainability. We have a beehive outside our window. There are green areas, the environmental impact of the clean air in the space, and water usage. So it's a tremendous selling point. And from the ESG perspective, particularly as we talk to our tenants or our clients, we're really finding that they are using it as a marketing point with their prospects, particularly in the corporate environments, as well as even with some of our other market sectors, where it's become so important and integral to how we process our world around us. And as each of us become more attuned to our impact on the environment and the impact on our employees, and how successful they can be within a space that is healthier for them to be in on a daily basis.
Well, yeah. And especially with trying to get or requiring, like some companies, employees to come back to the workplace, yes, and rethinking the design of how a space is used, and then integrating the ESG and green component to help entice employees to come back to work. And also, so as you know, Melissa, so many large companies have ESG initiatives for their buildings, and it's a driving force of whether they stay in a certain location or move, or how they can adapt a building.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it really is short-sighted if you're not already thinking about that as you're looking at your new developments, or even looking at the existing developments as we talk about adaptive reuse. That's a great selling point in itself, to say, you know, this building used to be something else. We've saved all the carbon footprint by not tearing it down and rebuilding something brand new, not to mention the savings that you're going to have within our current construction environment with supply chains and material cost impacts.
Well, and a lot of people don't take into consideration, but they should. And brokers and agents watching this, you know, you need to get familiar with what's happening in your local markets, because there's a lot of cities like New York, for example, local law 97.
Yeah.
Buildings have X amount of years to transform, or they get fined for things, right? So who wants to build a building today that's not going to qualify 4 years from now, right? You're going to have a whole lot of overhaul and expense. And so not every market is affected by that. But, you know, there's a lot of big cities already out there, Boston, New York, Chicago, many cities in California that are already starting to implement these laws. And so, you know, it's wise for us to know as much of it as possible, because when we're speaking to prospective sellers, or even, you know, purchasers of buildings, or tenants for that matter, they need to be taking that into consideration, because that is a direct relationship as to what the valuation is going to be. And also another reason to get an architect like yourself involved, so that you can help consult and walk them through those. You know, I mean, some of it could be as simple as LED lighting, but like you said, the carbon footprint, you know, and I never try to ever get into this conversation, but you opened it up, so I'm going to say it. The truth is, unfortunately, you know, the buildings, a lot of the old infrastructure of the United States of America is what's putting off so many of the bad gases, the carbon emissions. And so that's why these large cities are trying to do something. I don't know when it's going to happen in Atlanta. I don't know when it's going to happen in Louisville, right? I have no idea. I don't know if it's happening in Reno, but I'm sure at some point, whether we like it or not, it's going to be happening all over. And so if I'm going to go out and spend 10, 20, 15, 30 million bucks on something, I want to do it right today versus having to do a do-over in 5 or 6 years.
Yep, completely agree. And again, to your point, having an architect or any other consultant on board early is going to help you get ahead of that. So I will be keeping an eye on the Atlanta market specifically for that law to come forward, because I'm sure it's going to hit all of us at some point in the next 10 years.
Well,
Yeah,
and the other thing, it's not a negative as much. Sorry, Lisa Marie. It's not a negative as much. I mean, yeah, we all complain when we have to spend more money, right? We all do. I hate when I pay taxes, but we do it, right? You know, there are so many incentives out there today for doing it, that it might be better to go ahead and do it and get those incentives, whether they're a tax write-off or an actual rebate, than to wait 5 years from now when everybody's doing it and maybe those incentives go away.
Absolutely. That's a very good point.
The other thing I was thinking about, Melissa, as far as employing an architect, is as businesses are right sizing. For example, we just pitched Microsoft America's corporate headquarters, and they're looking at right sizing their space. And so an architect can help with space utilization, correct?
Absolutely. Space utilization, flows through the building, how to more effectively utilize multi-use spaces, and even looking, one of the things we always look at as well when we're looking at our corporate environments are outside amenities that the building may hold that can also be used as flex space within the overall programming of the space for the employees.
You know, and that I'm going to make another point here, because I'm actually dealing with this right now. It's so important to have you all involved as it relates, because, you know, we had a company come to us that needs 100,000 square feet of industrial space. My question was, how do you know you need exactly 100,000 square feet? Because that's a big amount of space.
Big number.
And well, because we're in X amount of square feet now. Okay, well, here's your price per square foot. Sticker shock, you guys. Like they, everywhere. Okay, well, why don't we really look at how much space you really need? Because, and so the architect that we're working with, and this is up in the Northeast, the architect we're working with, honestly, they need 78,000 square feet. They don't need 100. So, also brokers and agents, be creative, right? Because again, I go back to, I'm so glad we had you on here today because we've had so many correlations to why it's a good thing to have business partners like yourself in our business because I look like a hero because I'm the one that said, hey, you don't need 100, you need 78,000. And look at how much you're going to save per month. And now let's go back to what the price is per square foot. And here, sign on the dotted line, right?
Yeah, that's a perfect example. And we've even applied it to ourselves. We moved from a 45,000 square foot building with our employees to a 4,500 square foot building. Now we use our corporate office environment differently where hoteling and people are coming in on different days, but that's a bit of what we're seeing in the corporate environment.
Right.
As how that we use the space differently. And people don't want to be in the office 5 days a week. So looking at that utilization effort, we did it to ourselves. We're our hardest client. Let me tell you, you don't want to be an architect working with architects. Too many cooks in the kitchen. But I look at how effectively we utilize every square foot of our space, and it's really made us a better team to collaborate and work together.
And the cost savings. I mean, 45,000 to 4,500. My goodness gracious.
And that sounds
when you
extreme.
became CEO? Was that your idea?
Well, I did choose the space and I did choose the square footage. There were some extenuating circumstances that helped us make the decision, but you talked about finding the right place, the right space, and we looked at heat mapping of our client base. We looked at heat mapping of our employees. We looked at effectiveness of our space and external spaces because we've got a lot of local amenities and shared space within our building. All of that becomes part of the conversation. It can't just be, as you're talking about corporate environments specifically, in my opinion, it can't just be about the square footage of each cube or each office. Again, bringing a design professional into the conversation early can help you stretch those dialogues with you and with your tenants and with their employees themselves to really define what that space should be.
Yeah, and I find it fascinating how the shift in corporate America utilizing their space, because there are some people that are going into a smaller footprint, for example, like you did. And then there are other companies like Salesforce who are expanding their space because the mentality, like you said, has shifted from, how many square feet, how many cubicles can we fit in a per square foot, and cram as many people as we can into an office building versus how can we utilize the open flow and have pods and seating areas and larger spaces for employees that are there in the office when they are. And I find it so interesting how the well-being of staff and from a corporate perspective has become so much more important.
Absolutely. And again, that's part of the conversation that we have with our clients everywhere from our corporate environments through our healthcare environments, and the importance of taking care of the employee, their well-being. Again, this is a well-certified building, but really focusing on what they need for their mental and physical health, because that's a direct impact on their efficiency in the work environment. So really doing a deep dive of what that means for your particular stakeholders and how that can drive additional revenue. The more productive they are, the more money each of our clients are going to make.
So true. So Melissa, what is your, you're in all kinds of different types, that we've talked about today, but you're doing a lot of focus on healthcare. Do you see that is, the I mean, I see medical space popping up everywhere, new hospitals, whether it's, surgical centers or whatever the case might be. But I mean, it's like they can't get enough of it. We're building a brand new VA hospital, here in Louisville, Kentucky, which is massive, unbelievably huge. But it seems like that space is just expanding, expanding, expanding. And and it's crazy. I guess it's because of the population. I guess we've gotten that much bigger as a population. I don't know.
We've got an aging population.
Aging population.
Yeah.
Aging.
Yes, we have an aging population. The baby boomers are coming of age, and the Gen Xers like myself are approaching. As much as I hate to admit that.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
I know, Lisa Marie. I hear you.
Wait, Lisa Marie, are you a Gen X or a baby? I'm joking.
Oh my gosh, you are so horrible.
I love Lisa Marie. I just make sure she's listening.
But no, I mean, we are seeing a tremendous upswing in healthcare. Even during the pandemic, it didn't slow down except for a brief period of time while our healthcare systems were trying to figure out what to do next.
Yeah.
But since that point, it has just been an upward momentum, whether that's new hospital towers or medical office buildings, which is in our area a huge shift away from the getting people into the hospital. We want preventative care. We want to take care of people where they are, so that they're not having to travel long distances to get that immediate health care that they need or to see their regular physician, and what their experience is within that space as well. So between our private hospital systems and even some of our hospital systems that operate on the closer end to nonprofit, it's a huge emphasis and certainly influences, again, the commercial real estate that surrounds them, because CRE gravitates to these areas because people gravitate to these hospital systems.
Right. Are you seeing in your area or any surrounding areas, are you seeing them able to reuse any existing buildings, or is it all brand new construction?
Most of this has been brand new construction. In the last 10 years, we've gone so far as to work with a more rural hospital system to take an old mall and turn it into a series of doctor's offices. So with specialty within them. So they took the main street, if you will, of the mall itself and turned that into a thoroughfare, and all the doctor's offices were just off the main corridor. It worked great for that particular community. It gave them what they needed. It allowed them to take an antiquated building structure that was underutilized and underfunded, because people just simply don't go to malls that much anymore, and really make it something that was going to help that community thrive.
Yeah, and I know that there's a project up in Michigan where they're actually taking a 12-story office building and turning it into a rehab facility that's state-owned.
Awesome.
And so, there are things like that taking place. Again, another reason when you get these opportunities listed, right? You got a big, huge office. We're getting one up in the Northeast here soon, 58,000 square feet of emptiness. Okay. My agent on my team says, what are we going to do first? I said, we're going to get an architect to tell us what we can do with the building, because obviously what it is currently, it doesn't need to be any longer.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And there are obviously limitations depending on what types of doctors or support infrastructure you need in that space. You're probably not going to put an MRI machine in the middle of an existing corporate office space, but you might be able to get a series of primary care physicians in there.
That's right.
We had a development in Reno where it was an old supermarket. So it was a large space. They turned it into an urgent care. And then we had just a new hospital built. And then what I'm seeing is more of like large campuses where there's the other thing that's coming in is assisted living, memory care, rehab hospitals, and then all of the ancillary services that go along with that. So I'm seeing the medical campuses where they're expanding and taking over a lot of real estate in the area. So like you were saying, it makes it very centralized for people that maybe aren't going to the hospital, but they need medical services. And then everything that builds up around that, the restaurants, the hotels, the housing. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, they really become a catalyst for development and revitalizing a lot of areas that really need it. So we did exactly what you're talking about, Lisa Marie, in one of our suburbs to the Atlanta area, where an entire senior living community, including memory care, is currently under construction. Everything from the 55 up to end of life care. And it was specifically and strategically located in proximity to one of our medical office buildings that we designed as well, which is also immediately adjacent to the hospital system. But what they did that was unique, and what I really commend them on, is that they connected it all through a trail system. So from one end of the trail to the other, you touch various aspects of this community. And in the end, it connected to the downtown area, revitalized the community, created a trail network. People go out there, they have yoga on the lawn. It really became a central hub for a very unique experience that is more than just people who are looking to retire or need additional care in their aging years. People of all ages come to enjoy this area.
That's one of the trends that I'm seeing that I just absolutely love and embrace is, instead of just, putting an office building or a retail center somewhere, taking a more holistic approach and seeing how can we connect, how can we get people out walking, how can we get utilization of space and enhance the community. So it's a bigger picture view, and it's also a longer, looking into the future of the community. I love that. It's a great example.
Yeah, and it is absolutely beautiful the way that it was brought to conception or to completion. Just really has been impactful, and we're actually doing that with that other developer that I mentioned as well. Part of the catalyst of that particular development was to connect to the city center and to create a hub of activity that would drive that connection, with the intent that more development would infill, and it would be a bookend for that development to the future.
Yeah. I think about Reno, where I live in northern Nevada, and we're surrounded by Lake Tahoe and beautiful mountains. But the city of Reno came up around the mining industry, silver mining and the railroad. And so what we have been left with now is trying to connect all of these pieces that were hodgepodged so many years ago, and things were built up around antiquated infrastructure. So the big question is, how do you revitalize that? How do you create infill projects and connect pockets of the community for the greater good and the greater development?
And I think the Atlanta Beltline is a prime example of a successful implementation of that, where they take the old rail line system and turned it into a connection. So it was just a beautiful implementation, and now along the entire trail, and they're continuing to develop that even further, all those hubs of activity have become one long centralized connection. And it's just amazing. If you haven't been to Atlanta to see the Beltline development and all the wonderful things that a multitude of developers have brought to our community, you need to come visit us.
Definitely need to come visit. I haven't been to Atlanta in so long. I'm sure it's changed a lot since the last time.
It changes every other week. Lots happening in Atlanta always.
It is.
Traffic proves that.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. But it'll be so much better in like 5 years.
We have the same thing here. If I don't go to a certain area of town for a couple of weeks, it's amazing to see the development that's going on, especially because we have so many infill pocket projects and a lot of money coming into the downtown area in Reno. So what do you think about, other than what we've talked about today, trends in green architecture, ESG, where you see the future going, or things that you're excited about going forward?
Oh, wow. There's so much in that arena. Sustainability has become such a huge topic of conversation. To be quite honest, we saw it begin to trail off for a period of time. There was the big push for LEED accreditation. It trailed a little bit, but particularly in the Atlanta area, with the need to look for other ways to attract tenants, for the need to look for other ways to have sustainable design processes. The adaptive reuse has been a huge component, not to mention maintaining the historical nature of our community that has such a rich and invigorating historic base. It's been great to see that. We're also seeing how that, especially in our healthcare industries, we're seeing how that really drives success as our clients are becoming more interested in cost savings long term, and how a good, well-designed, efficient building can really help with that. But ultimately, I think you drove it home. The ESG aspect of it has been huge. We have clients that come to us because of some of the initiatives that they are looking to implement. We have employees that come and want to work with us because of our approach, where we are, who we've become over the years. So it's interwoven into all of our dialogues, and it's interwoven into our daily lives as well.
It's awesome.
So I wanted to ask you about this, because most of the architects that I work with are men, and talk to me about, because you're president and CEO of your company, you worked your way up from an intern. What are your thoughts on, women in your field? Are you seeing more? Are you supporting that, growing? Like, I know Stephanie and I are just very passionate about helping women and minorities in commercial real estate, because traditionally it's the, older white gentlemen that you see in this business.
Yes.
Yes. They are now in the healthcare facilities that Melissa is designing.
Yes, they are. Oh, I love it. I love it. So I have been very intentional. So I became president in 2019 and CEO in 2020, and we bought, myself and some of my other more junior partners, we bought the company from the last founding partner. And we have been very intentional. We recently got our Female Business Enterprise and Small Business Enterprise certification from the city of Atlanta. And as part of my initiative in my leadership role was to really support women, to help us be successful. Only 17% of women are in leadership roles in the AEC community.
Yeah.
And so to be one of those is such an honor, but it's also been a long journey, and a lot of obstacles have been placed in front of me, as you both know. You've experienced it in your careers, and I know many of your listeners have also experienced it, but we've been very intentional in our approach to looking for talent. I'm very proud to say that we are 50% women in our company, which is unheard of in the industry. Thank you. And I'll also add that we're 38% minority based. They self-identify as minorities. So that's huge for us. And as part of our growth plan as we begin to look at what the future holds for CDH, and hopefully as an example to others in the industry and within the community, the AEC community, as to what can be accomplished if you just put your mind to it. I'm a firm believer in helping other women be successful, making the right connections for them, even if it means I don't get that opportunity, but to make sure that somebody else is afforded the opportunity to present their expertise or their experiences to really help clients or the community be successful.
You fit right in with us, Melissa. I swear. You could be our third sister, right? I mean, the reason why Lisa Marie and I decided how long ago that has it been now that we've been doing CRE?
Almost a couple years, I think.
Yeah, but we decided to do it just because, one, we can, two, we know what we're talking about, but three, we wanted to bring as much inspiration as we could to anybody out there, because so many people told both of us no. I got to tell this story because this made my day the other day, you all. The very first commercial broker that I went to hang my license with in 1999, who told me no, I should go sit in open houses, a week ago emailed me, and he had gotten a hotel listing of mine in his email. And he said, Stephanie, may I have your permission to send your listing out to my database of buyers? And I thought, oh my God. And people are like, well, who cares about that? But think about the full circle.
Full circle. Yep.
That was the full circle that it just became. I showed that to so many people because look, I didn't get any money in that email, right? He didn't bring me a buyer. He asked my permission to send my listing to his database because at this given moment, he doesn't have anything to share with them. And that's full circle for me. Right.
Yes,
and so
I love that story.
Loved that. And we do this because it's just, and we get reached out to all the time, which we love. We love to mentor agents. We love to encourage. We love to coach. We want you to have raving fans because we're raving fans of one another and we want to be raving fans of you. Anybody can make it at what you want to do. Just go do it.
That's right.
Right.
Go do it. Because he told me to go sit in houses and now he's sharing my listings.
That's perfect.
I love it,
Stephanie.
Yeah.
Melissa, thanks so much for being on the show today. You've added a lot of value to our viewers and listeners, and you are a badass. You've achieved a lot, and it's great to be in the company of successful women. So thanks for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me.
A project just so I can work with you.
Please do. Please do.
We're going to do it, Lisa Marie. We'll co-broker it.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you, Melissa. So great.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye. Thank you.